What is it that you think is the biggest blocker for how, whether it's a leader in a business or anybody within an organization is trying to do their job, that they know there's this magical thing out there now, generically called AI, can do all these great things, and they're like, I got it to write an email for me. It's like, why aren't more people kind of unlocking the power of what they could do immediately?
What I found is, I'm just going to throw out a number there, 99% of people I meet in real life, not folks on the internet that are into this sort of thing, are just starting to use like ChatGPT, and they're starting to put things in it and be amazed by it. And they're starting to have it draft emails, or now they're putting spreadsheets in there for the first time, and they're like, whoa, this is really powerful, right? Well, there's many I've found that haven't advanced past there, and there's so much more that it could do for a business that isn't obvious. And that comes down to the way that it can code personal applications for you or for your business to unlock things that would otherwise be extremely difficult.
Is the hang up even in just how you described it? Do you think like you could code this? I don't know. I can't even begin. I don't know. First thing about code, I know what the word means, full stop.
I think that is a big hang up because it sounds very intimidating.
Yeah.
And when you first start getting into it, you'll see all this code being written, and it can be intimidating if you've never seen it before. But I can tell you that from a person that has built software, never to the tune of the great developers that I have could, but at least understanding enough of what was going on, that what's happening is you can just talk to it and tell it what you want. In fact, you can tell it your problem, and it will tell you in natural language back how you can better solve it. And then it will prompt you, do you want me to write an application for that or code for it?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start to see the power of it.
Yeah. Can you give a very specific example of that in terms of identifying what you want to do or the problem that you have, and then using the system to help problem solve, not give you an answer in the first step?
So I'm building this thing called Brewery OS, and it's a brewery operating system. It's really like an operating system for any businesses.
Explain that,
any
though,
business.
because people think, oh, Windows is an operating system.
Yeah,
it's like.
So I look at OS as like it's an operating system specifically for our business. I just called it that because I think it's cool. But in there is everything from accounting modules to manufacturing modules that will ingest data from our NetSuite system, which is our accounting system, what we use to track all the beers and beverages we make, the cost of ingredients that go in those, and any anomaly detection. It'll look at if we missed an ingredient. So let's say that like the average beer has like 100 different ingredients, right? It's not just hops, grains, there's salts in there, and there's all this stuff, right? Well, all that has to be absorbed in the cost of that beer. Historically, what happened is when we made a product, it would get absorbed into our cost of goods sold, but we never sold that product. So it's not really a good way to like manage a business. Meaning like, what if, a car dealer, as soon as they get all the cars on their lots, like that's an expense for that month. It doesn't make any sense. Like, like you basically absorb that cost when you sell that product. Well, for beer, it was the same way. Otherwise, you're not going to get better. You're not going to understand, like, how is the business doing? So we went to NetSuite to be able to understand it. And NetSuite is a pretty archaic system. It's pretty powerful in the sense that very customizable. So we had this database of information, but it was hard to visualize it. It was hard to get proactive information. You have to go in there and you have to kind of be a data scientist to even create reports in NetSuite to pull them out. You got to look at them daily. It's just like super old school. So I'm like, well, if we can get alerts on these things before they get too far out of whack, then we could take action on them. Like, oh yeah, that coffee that was in that stout that we made, you never put a cost on there. Well, if you find that out too late, it really can screw up your financial system. So that's like really in the weeds of like part of this. The other part of it is marketing, like how to create marketing assets quicker, how to create embed code. One of the things I'll say that AI really helped with the other day is I was thinking about the problem our sales team has with respect to customers that are outside of our distribution network. What I mean by that is we have distribution in 32 states, right? But let's say Florida. So there's a retail shop in Florida that they really want to carry our product. They have had it before. They love our brand. They want to carry it. Well, we don't have distribution there yet. Okay. So the only way for them to do it is to go on our website, apply to be an what we call them like an online retailer. And then once they do that and we approve them, then they could purchase our product online at a wholesale price. We mail it to them and they could sell it in their store. That process was like through 3 different systems. And our sales team would have to look at that and they would have to analyze the application. They would have to contact the person. They would have to do all this stuff. I won't get in the weeds of all of it, but it would take like an hour, let's say, right?
Sure.
So the other day I asked AI, like, how do we ingest this lead into a CRM that I want you to build, score the lead based on relevancy, and then tell me out of a scale from 1 to 10, the probability that this person would be a good online wholesale customer. And instead of me telling it what I wanted, it thought of, which I wouldn't have thought of, I want to look at what's called an MX record. An MX record is a database of like, who registered the domain? Who's the domain belong to? Does that match what the business email is? Okay. We just had someone do this the other day. They were RevFit Naperville. They were selling Assembly, our electrolyte drink. Their email address was such and such at revfitnaperville.com. Boom. Started to score it well, right? Oh, it was relevant. It was a fitness business. So it did a lookup to say, okay, what kind of business is this? It's a fitness business. Great. Okay, that's another good thing. Oh, we looked up more information about their social profile. So it pulls everything in and it says, this is an 8 out of 10. Okay. Now it's an automated approval.
Right.
That doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
Now it goes into our system and they immediately get access to an online portal with a nice message saying, hey, we're here if you need help, but we're assuming you want to buy something quick. And that's it. So like I didn't have to tell it what I needed. It did something for me that I never even thought of.
And in all of that, call it like the old way would have been, we have this CRM system. How do we work within that system? Oh, we're going to need to figure out how we're going to validate these leads. So let's have a conversation about how would we validate leads and what that looks like, and like doing all the component parts and then turning to the AI to go, make this all work together, versus at the very beginning going, how would you solve this for me? It makes a recommendation. You go yay or nay. Like, I hadn't thought of that before. I mean, it to me, that just seems like the biggest unlock for so many people, of just articulate the problem that you have and see the answer that you get. And if it's shit, it's shit. But it's probably not going to be, and you're going to go, oh.
Yeah. And if it is, you feed it back and you're like, hey, this isn't working. Here's what I'm thinking. It's like, oh, you're right. We'll have a conversation with you that is realistic about your business needs, because it doesn't know all the context, but it knows enough historical context to put you down the right path. And that's the other thing with it, is like a lot of folks, and I was really guilty of this, would prompt things that were really ambiguous, and you get ambiguous answers and you get frustrated with it. One of the unlocks, and we could talk about this on a later podcast, to me was thinking about what is the information that you know natively that you've ingested in your systems. And if you think about Google image search, right? And you think about Gemini, and then you think about, well, how does ChatGPT get information? Well, they stole a lot of information from Google, right? They're indexing what Google's already indexed. So what Google had, if you look at a photograph that was taken on the web, there's something called metadata. Metadata on a photograph is the latitude and longitude of where that picture was taken, the camera it was taken on, sometimes the lighting, all this stuff, right? And it's very raw metadata. It's not ambiguous. It's like, this was taken with a Canon R6 camera, and it used a 35 millimeter lens.
Sure.
And we know that there was a flash on it. And now all of a sudden it has a model of like, this is what the picture looked like, and here's all the metadata, right? What it doesn't have on that picture is like the word realistic versus what someone would prompt, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I was guilty of that too. So if you want a realistic image, you don't say realistic.
Yeah.
You give it a very vivid description of the camera that you wanted. And each camera shoots a little bit differently. So you find cameras that you like, and you start to feed it that detailed information, and the shadows and the way the lights come in and the condensation. And all of a sudden you start to get better responses.
So going back to these prompts for AI, asking it for the recommendation of a solution to a problem. In some ways, it's giving you, say, better information or more contextualized information than a Google search would. But the bigger thing is that then it can solve the problem. It can activate a solution, right? It can build you the spreadsheet. It can build you the CRM system. It can, like, not just, here's what you need to do, and it's giving you a list of directions. Okay, I wouldn't know how to build a CRM system, so this information is useless to me to know, well, it could do it for you, and really fast. And you'll know right away whether it worked.
Yeah, and it's only going to get easier and easier on how this whole process works. And the next couple episodes, we'll get into like headless commerce, which I'm very excited about.
Okay.
So I don't even want to get into what that is right now, but I'll just tee it up to say like huge unlock for folks, huge unlock. It is, in short, taking a lot of systems and what those systems do very well and taking them outside those systems, like
Yeah.
in comparison and contrasting to like monolithic websites.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, imagine you could get the Amazon.com shopping experience on your own website and not having to go to Amazon.com. Imagine that you could combine that with like really personalized recommendation engine for you and like where you're shopping, right? It's just like a one of many, many, many examples. But like the reality is today, if you understand what your problem is, you don't need to do too much to find not only solutions, but a way to take all of these tools that would otherwise be independent and put them together to solve a problem.
You used the word imagine there a few times, and I
Yeah.
feel like that is such a skill that has atrophied in so many people, in so many industries. Like they can't even begin to imagine the kinds of possibilities because there weren't the tools there, or because this is the dogma of the industry, or this is how I was taught. I was taught to do it this way.
Yeah.
How often do you hear that? And it's so frustrating. Whereas this becomes like flex your imagination, and you'll be so surprised at the applications that are available to you.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with this because it's an example of thinking there isn't a solution to a problem, but there is. And you wouldn't necessarily know the solutions that are available until you start to be curious and start to dive into this stuff. So I'm meeting with the CEO of a large charitable organization, crazy smart guy. And we're talking about AI. Obviously, I'm very passionate about it, very excited about it. And then he starts telling me that he's, dabbles in ChatGPT and things like that. And like what I hear from 99% of people, I'm like, man, you have to like dig in more to these things. And I'm like, tell me something that you think is a problem in your organization. Just like, I don't care what it is, just walk me through it that you just think is wasteful or could be better. So he starts walking me through it. And basically, they have a call center for folks that aren't able to use technology. Maybe they don't have access to it or they have some sort of disability. So people call in and they leave these voice messages over the weekend. Well, the staff comes in on Monday, and what do? They go in for the first voice message, they listen to it, and they have to go take action on it, then they get to the next one, and it takes them like a whole day to even get through these from the weekend. And now they're playing catch up on the new calls, and it's just a disaster. So if you didn't know what is available, you immediately be like, well, that's a phone call. Like, that's not going to really help AI. But it really can be super applicable to how AI can help because you can ingest all of those calls. You could do voice to text. You can analyze that call. You can then put it into something called 11 Labs, which is a API that's all about voice generation. You can literally call the person back if you needed to. Or you can have a prompt system where once they get to a certain place and they get stuck on something or it prompts them for this decision matrix so the person doesn't have to call them back right away, to then filter out the questions that can be answered, but also by doing it where it doesn't require the person to use any technology. So like it's basically just a transfer of these systems of like ChatGPT, let's say, or Claude or whatever, into voice to text, but doing it real time, right? And it sounds like crazy, like, oh man, that'd be a lot. Yeah, that would have been crazy hard to do, would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can solve that in 1 hour. 1 hour.
In that story, it seems like you knew some solutions that were out there that could help with it, 11 Labs or whatever. But do you think that the CEO or whomever else could have said, this is my problem to a ChatGPT, and it could have recommended these solutions?
Yes.
And then helped figure it out.
So it's like you don't even need to be, you just need to be curious enough to ask it. But what I'm saying is like people need to dig into their business and they need to really start to explore the problems they have and don't automatically assume that there's not a solution for them because there probably is.
I'm so excited to talk more about this stuff. I have seen and felt moments of awe when you've demoed a thing and you're just going, when do you ever fucking get that in business? Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Wow.